This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and this afternoon I've been joined by James Whiteman, the Managing Director of Guildford Borough Council. James, thank you very much for giving your time. You're a busy man at the moment, no doubt, but I am grateful to you for joining the Guildford Dragon. How is the council coping with the coronavirus crisis?
Thanks, Martin. Very nice to be doing this. Thank you for inviting me to do it. I think we've provided a really sterling response, actually. We are public servants doing our job, and we are all so proud to be public servants at this time. I have to say it's the most unusual period I think any of us have ever encountered within our careers in local government, and the response has been overwhelming and impressive. We've had lots of comments from colleagues in the Local Resilience Forum, for example, commenting about our strong response at Guildford. And I personally am so proud to be leading such an innovative and caring and responsible group of people. I mean, they've pulled out the stops to ensure that our residents and businesses are being served and our vulnerable groups are being looked after. So I'm really proud. I mean, our frontline staff, there they are, carrying on providing excellent services and putting our residents first. At Millmead, it's been very interesting because they've really had to adjust to new ways of working. So lots of them are working at home. Fortunately, our Future Guildford transformation programme and the investment in IT has meant that we're working from home really successfully. So we're conducting a lot of meetings via Teams and via mediums like this, which is working very well. And our staff are still working on homelessness. I mean, extraordinary teams. I see them rushing in. They're getting tools to make up beds so that people can be housed and homed. I mean, just their commitment and passion for what they do is extraordinary. Within the community, our amazing teams are working very hard, sorting and supporting the most vulnerable people with food parcels and picking up prescriptions. And another mention really for our leisure team who stepped up with the Spectrum issue and our contractor Freedom Leisure in terms of providing a county hub for all the shielded community. These are people who've been identified by the NHS as having underlying health conditions. And our staff and partners have just stepped up at the last minute. It's been extraordinary watching them put together these services. Now, I'm aware, I mentioned home working. I'm aware it's very difficult for staff. It can be quite lonely. It's a change in routine. We have to look at new ways of communicating. And so with our fantastic comms team, we've put together an approach of daily emails called Reasons to be Cheerful GBC, where staff are interacting with one another, highlighting photographs and hobbies and observations to just keep each other intact. They're budding up to make sure that they contact colleagues throughout the day. And we're celebrating our service heroes. The amazing people are out there collecting refuse, cutting the grass, delivering meals. I mean, it's just extraordinary how much hard work is going on. And we're also redeploying staff. So if their roles have meant that there's a bit of capacity for them to do other things, for example, parking, civil enforcement officers and committee staff and election staff are over at Park Barn Centre helping put together food parcels. And that's been brilliantly supported by the staff and by Unison. So my opportunity now, Martin, is to say a huge thank you to all of the staff and also to our councillors as well for supporting us and being led so passionately by Caroline Reeves, because it really has been a really joined up approach. So thank you to everybody for that.
Okay, well, I think you've answered my next question, which was, are there any areas of your operation that have had to stop and what's happening about those? But you're saying you're redeploying those to other areas where they can help.
Yes, we've. You will know that the day centres have closed, and Park Barn and Shawfield are now our locality hubs, providing these meals and services to our local community. And we've also just launched as well the community helpline, if you don't mind me just plugging that, Martin, because so it's the community helpline and it's 01483 444400, where people can self-refer or call or refer a friend, a neighbour or relative. And we've also have a helpline for those coming out of hospital, and we can make sure that their homes have been adjusted. It's very key, and Caroline is very key on this, Caroline raises, no one in the borough should feel alone or without help at this time. And also lots of people want to volunteer. So we're saying if you want to volunteer, please call our customer services line on 01483 50 50 50, and we'll link people to the relevant community groups as well. So there's a huge amount going on at the moment.
Okay, now, obviously no one's immune to this virus, including your staff. How many have had to self-isolate or have to take sick leave, and has that affected your operational capacity?
There are a very small number who have self-isolated or have underlying health conditions who are at home and safe. We've had a few sickness areas, and we've had to move things around, certainly on the frontline services to help people. But generally, because we have such a deep-rooted sense of providing our services and very experienced managers, they are adjusting and flexing the services to accommodate that. And it's so far, we are not letting people down, and we're providing really good services to people. It's providing a really good sense of normality to people, I think, as well. Okay,
so the percentage of sick leave or isolation isn't affecting your operational capacity, is that right?
Not at the moment, but we're keeping very key messages to staff about hygiene and keeping distance, etc. And PPE, personal protective equipment, is a very key thing as well. So all of those things are hopefully in control. But Martin, we are very aware that it is a contagious disease, and we are constantly reminding people to look after themselves in those ways.
Because even with the precautions, there are some roles where the risk level must be a little bit higher, but these people are still going out and doing that job regardless.
Well, the personal protective equipment and risk assessments are all carried out. We're not going to put people at risk. And where staff have flagged up a concern, then we've looked at that. It's either a case, you're faced with a case of either suspending a service or doing other adjustments to make it safer and acceptable to do it. And that's a constant thing. I meet all the managers, the COVID-19 group, as we call it. Nobody's ever accused me of being imaginative. And we meet every day covering those points. And all of those operational points are raised, and we work through those. We take it very seriously.
Okay. Now, how many staff still have to go to Millmead, or is it flexible? So is it the case that sometimes they go in and sometimes they can stay at home, depending on the requirement?
Exactly that. And some of the teams have rotated. So HR, for example, will have one in, and the others will stay and work from home. And then they'll take it in turns to come in, because there are still HR issues that sometimes we need somebody here. So I would say probably around about 20 staff in the office, in Millmead office each day.
Okay.
Absolute minimum. It was quite a day when on the final day when we said everybody had to go home, and you saw all the planners with their boxes and plans, and everybody went out with their new IT systems, and then we went live, and it's just been phenomenal, the support our IT team have given to people to allow that to happen.
Yes, and by all accounts, that IT upgrade was very timely.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah, I'm very proud of the Future Guildford work that we carried out. I think that really has given us the ability to manage this very well.
Okay. Now, looking at the democratic operation during this crisis, obviously it's an emergency and not all the normal procedures can occur. But is it always possible to get councillor agreement before new government advice is put into effect?
Well, Caroline Reeves sits on the COVID-19 group every day, and we talk about one of the first items on the agenda is the government direction and initiatives that we have to work to. So Caroline is very aware and provides an adequate response or direction for us to work on that. So I think the communication has been very strong with that.
Okay, and is it going to be possible for the for the public rather, to still get access to online council meetings? Because I'm sure we'd all excuse the council in this emergency period, because everyone sensible understands that certain restrictions are in place, but also our democracy is important, and fortunately, new IT can allow communication which wouldn't have been possible in earlier days.
Yeah, it's well, again, our IT team have done a fantastic job at making sure that we'll be able to carry out virtual meetings. But one of the key things is that we've got public speaking provisions that will continue. And I think there was a licensing meeting last week where there were 2 public speakers, one certainly I know of. But absolutely, I mean, the members have been very strong, as you would expect, on that message that they want the public to be able to view these. And the ICT and Democratic Services colleagues are currently looking at how we'll achieve this using the functionality of Microsoft Teams, which has been has just been so wonderful for us actually in sort of working forward.
Okay, now where does public compliance with the emergency regulations still need to be improved in the borough, in your view? I noticed yesterday that the police didn't mention, I can't recall any mention of a site in the Guildford borough that was a problem, which is good news for the borough, of course. But are there still areas we need to think harder about?
We think generally compliance has been really good, actually. We are working with the police. Paul Stacey's team in Parks are working very closely with our police colleagues. And we think the messaging has been very clear. But we are very pleased to see, actually, that most people are complying with that. And I think everybody is very pleased that there are some things that can still happen. So it's been wonderful, for example, to see North Street Market being kept open and encouraging people with the queuing at 2 metres apart. And I think residents have been really pleased to have an alternative to supermarkets there. But they're definitely complying with that distancing, which has been great to see. So I think people generally are doing it very well. But we obviously will monitor that.
Okay, now you mentioned supermarkets. In my personal experience, that's where it can be quite tricky to maintain your social distance. And some people are obviously more conscious of it than others. Perhaps older people like me who feel more at risk, worry more about it. What about supermarkets, the suggestion that they remind people politely and gently with the tannoy system just to maintain those distances?
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. I mean, we can certainly have that discussion with relevant contacts within that area. I mean, I know some people might respond slightly differently to you and I, Martin, on that, but I think it's good, a good thing to just keep those prompts going, actually.
Yeah. Okay, good. Now, how are you liaising with other you've mentioned the COVID-19 group, is it?
Yes.
Right.
That's an internal group.
Oh, that's an internal group. But yes, presumably there's a structure to the groups, and there's one. Is there a county-wide one?
Yeah, I think in local governments, I think the thing that hopefully provides sort of reassurance to people is that we have been planning and rehearsing for emergency planning for years. We are good at this. We have plans in place. We have staff who are trained, who are experienced, who have the networks available to actually carry out their duties. And that's not just within my authority, that's with across the county, districts and boroughs, the county, the police and the health service. And we've dealt with a number of different emergencies in the past, as you know, like flooding. This is probably the most challenging, but it's all of that work and preparation is really coming into play. This is what we do. And so there is a strategic coordination group that I sit on and phone in on to meetings on a daily basis now. And that's attended by the police, Surrey County Council, all the districts and boroughs, Surrey Fire and Rescue, health colleagues and the Army. And that is working very, very well in terms of pushing forward all of the planning that's necessary, whether that's on the shielded community or excess deaths and all the planning that we're having to do in relation to this dreadful virus. This is the group of people who are doing that. Our MP has led on some issues for us and also issues that have been raised by her constituents to us as well. And she always gets on and does that and feeds back to us, and that has been very effective. We get regular updates from government ministers. We have regular conference calls. I just come off one with a minister before I spoke to you, Martin. The chief executives, I'm the chair of the Surrey Chief Executives meeting, and we meet on a weekly basis. We don't repeat the SCG, but we use it as an opportunity to drill into any specific issues and offer some support to one another through this difficult time as well, because that's quite important. But it is an absolute team effort, and it can't be done without everybody working in a really cohesive way. And I think we are. I think we're doing very well at it.
Okay, and are we in the local media doing enough as far as you're concerned? I think I'm sure my colleagues in other parts of the media are as aware as I am of our role to get information out to our readers. Are we doing enough?
I think so. I think the balance and the level of information that's gone out to residents across a whole county stage has been very, very effective, actually.
Good. I mean, because I would say from my point of view, we're keen that people come to regulated news sites as opposed to social media, which we know can contain information which isn't always helpful.
No, yeah. I think it's been very good, but hopefully I've got some key messages over today as well. The key one for me was really thanking my staff, Martin. I hope you don't think that was too obvious, but they have just been fantastic.
Good. Okay. When you have these meetings with other parts of government and upwards to ministers, etc., do you feel that your feedback is being properly listened to and incorporated into their thinking?
Yes, I think so. Some key issues. You won't be surprised to know that PPE is a key issue for all the organisations at the moment. So protective personal equipment, and so for health workers and the NHS, and also for the operations that we carry out. And so when that is raised within arenas like the Strategic Coordination Group, that's being raised up through to government. And I think I think there's very clear evidence that they are listening to that. We know with the hub at the Spectrum about provision of food, we've had a very quick response with that as well. I think the test will be about the amount of money that is being spent for our response on this. And in fact, the call that I've just come from in terms of ensuring that ministers are aware of the impact on districts and boroughs in particular, and that call is being listened to. And I think there is every sign that they fully understand what that impact is. But this is going to be a long road, and we're going to have to make sure that we keep very good evidence of that impact, and we are.
James Whiteman, Managing Director at Guildford Borough Council, thank you again for your time. And if I may say, I know from some of the comments we've had that people do really appreciate the efforts of you and your colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.